Welcome to the Tone Lounge Podcast, the definitive music industry and gear podcast with Jonathan Gilmet and Frank Fleckenstein.
What's up, guys? Welcome to the Tone Lounge Podcast. It is episode number 17, and I'm Frank. I'm your host. With me today, as always, my good buddy and co-host, Jonathan Gilmet, coming in live from Belgium. And we also have an interesting guest today, coming in live from the Philippines. Welcome, Kenzo from NOF Customs. How are you?
Hello. Oh, good.
How is it? What time? What time is it right now in the Philippines?
6 p.m. 6:18.
6 p.m. Okay, so it's the evening for you.
Nighttime.
Yeah.
Nighttime.
Okay. Gotcha. And I suppose that you have way better weather in the Philippines right now than we have around here in Europe.
Depends. So the thing is, we're a high humidity country.
Yeah.
So if other countries have 4 seasons like fall, summer, and all of that, we have rainy season, more rain, sunny season, and more sun.
Okay.
So it's like, but in between of that, it's still all humid.
Ugh.
It depends on what you like.
Yeah.
Ooh. Okay.
I'm not much for humidity. Hate it. I went to Peru a few years back in 2018. So Peru has like all these microclimates. But when we went to see Machu Picchu, we're like right on the cusp of the rainforest.
Yeah.
And it was so humid. I could not live. I was like, I'm dying. I'm just fucking sweating all the time. My clothes are drenched. And my wife's looking at me like, are you okay? I'm like, I'm going to die here. It's not going to be like some weird exotic disease. It's just going to be the humidity factor. There was no AC, no fans, no nothing. We kept the window open and it felt like it was worse. Beautiful country, dude. Pale white dude here, can't live there. Can't do it. Wasn't made for it whatsoever. So I imagine if I go to Asia at some point and I go to a country like maybe Thailand or Cambodia or the Philippines, I'm probably going to be sweating. People there are just going to laugh at me.
Thailand is much more drier.
Okay, now I know where
so
to
I've
go.
heard.
I've been to Thailand for it's much more drier.
I know where to go.
Philippines is much more it's more humid depending on where you are. But Thailand, Vietnam, it's much more drier because I've been there as well. So, and Japan is very, very dry.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it depends because it's winter season.
And does that present any challenges for building guitars? Because we're talking about a lot of humidity.
A lot. So it's now turning summer season, right? This is the season that a lot of acoustic guitar bridges go off, and the guys just repaired some of them.
Okay.
It's like if you had a business plan of what to repair this month, it would be acoustics like exploding.
So that's almost like having like some sort of seasonal condition to do.
Repair.
Yeah, exactly. Like, okay, in spring we're gonna do these types of instruments. In and in fall we're gonna do that. And that's interesting.
Believe me, it happens. Even like if it's like going near December, it's like okay, a lot of truss rods will need to be replaced this month or something like that.
Does that mean that when? Oh, go ahead, Frank.
Okay, it used to be to be an issue before. Some of these like larger OEM companies had like facilities where they could really control the climate and where everything was stored in. I'm talking like 15 years ago or something. And you would instantly know where this instrument would come from. Was it like a house brand instrument or something?
Yeah.
Because it arrived in Europe, and suddenly you had the fret ends sticking out, and the wood was looking like super dry, like almost about to crack. And then afterwards, these companies obviously they adopted
changed.
And they changed the conditions in where they're producing, and now it's. I'm not gonna say it's not an issue anymore, but it's less of an issue.
It's more of an issue if depends on when it was done.
Yeah.
So if it's an Asian company and it was done like in the rainy season or like a high humidity season, then it will happen going to Europe or going to the US because you have much more drier air, I think.
Yeah.
So, because even when I was there in Germany, when me and Jonathan met, I didn't even sweat a lot. I did sweat, but I didn't like smell like I was in the forest.
Unlike me.
So yeah, it's a normal thing. So like even here, you would see carbon reinforced necks that warp here in my country.
Really?
Wow.
Because it's really humid. Like sometimes it's really dry, then suddenly it rains so hard, then it becomes dry again. So it's very we call this an unstable atmosphere for any instrument. So, but if you can make a guitar here and it's stable here, when I bring it there, then I usually don't have that problem. You know, that really depends because it can happen to any builder, any manufacturer, anyway, wherever they are, even though they control the whole system, like the humidity, temperature, and everything. End of the day, the material is moving. It's organic. So it's something that they cannot really compute. The only guy that made it work was Ken Parker because he made the carbon shell guitar necks.
Yeah.
That worked. Yeah, that's the only guitar I haven't fixed with a warp neck.
You just
I think.
You just said something that I just wanted to click into. You said that obviously the reason why we're talking now is because you and Jonathan you ran into each other at Guitar Summit, and he noticed something that was quite remarkable because you had a guitar with frets on there that essentially would be called the banana frets.
Yeah, I call it the banana frets.
And I mean, I've seen all kinds of. I mean, yeah, it is a different approach to a multiscale sort of instrument.
Yeah.
And I've seen fan frets where they're still straight, but obviously in an angled manner. Then we have the true temperament, but that's a different thing. It has nothing to do. It has more to do with harmony and intonation, and not so much with scale length. But how did you come up with the idea for these crazy looking necks, who are definitely a visual attraction, but also they also have a purpose? So how did you develop that?
So 2 years ago, I think, or more, I messaged the first guy who really made it. His name is Daniel Memory of Oni Guitars.
Okay.
So what I did is because I'm really interested in ergonomic because I have a problem with my elbow, a problem with here, a pinched nerve, and a broken dislocated thumb. So anything ergonomic, I'm into that. And the only thing I haven't touched is his creation of a third fret. I asked him, is it possible for me to do my own version of your thing? I'm just asking permission. I will not ask any of your dimensions or whatever, just your permission that I could research about it. I said, yeah. Then after 6 months, I made my first fretboard with it. Then, of course, when you make something, you find something wrong again, then you fix it, wrong again. So after 2 years, then, okay, finally it worked. Yeah. Yeah. So the whole idea is a fan fret guitar or a multiscale guitar is really beneficial to begin with. Any multiscale guitar, even if it's fan, curve, or whatever, it's always beneficial because it pulls the strings correctly to their correct tension. Yeah. So the thing is, my issue personally with fan frets, I still use them. I have made guitars with fan frets even before this. The thing is, I had a hard time doing chords like this, maybe like this. It stretches like
Mhm.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
because on a fan fret that would be like that
Yes. Yes.
because it's gonna be.
Like,
So I was looking for a way to have the multi-scale benefit, but it won't really affect my playing.
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, if you feel comfortable with the guitar, well, you will play better.
Yeah. It's true.
For
It's true.
sure.
100%. And with especially with fan fret guitars, I think my issue always was it totally depended on where the neutral fret was placed if I would feel comfortable
Yeah,
with the
yeah,
instrument or not. Because I remember, so
yeah.
I played a couple of Kiesel multi-scale guitars for some time,
Mm,
and
mm.
the neutral fret was fret 9, which was like totally fine for me because the
Yeah,
angle wasn't too heavy around, around here when you're at the first
yeah.
fret. But then Ibanez came around with like these with a 7 string and an 8 string that were fan fret, and their neutral fret was the 12th, which was a total shit show.
Yeah,
Sorry, I don't want to
yeah.
piss in anyone's cup at Ibanez, but it
No, no,
wasn't
no.
well thought out because at the first fret you were essentially playing like this. It was like so
The
anti-ergonomic.
reason why Ibanez did it that way, I mean, the total reason why Ibanez did it that way is because when Novaks made the fan fret system in
Mm,
1990, the neutral position was 12, and they were trying to follow
yeah,
that guy. The thing with fan fret is or multi-scale. The tricky part where the center
mm,
line is, it really depends on what body shape
yeah,
it is. So if you cannot always say that it's always on the 8th or the 9th or the 12th because sometimes like bodies tend to re-angle the guitar
yeah, yeah,
somewhat somehow when you play sitting down or up. So the neutral fret actually moves if you want to really make a guitar for
yeah,
somebody. So the first prior times I made a fan fret, my neutral fret was the fifth fret, the fourth fret, the sixth fret. There's others that are eighth fret. Then I ended up with an eighth fret because it was too much customization that every time I had to make a guitar for somebody
yeah,
specifically. What happened before was a person would really come to me. I would really give him a neck without any frets and said, just put your hand on the neck. And where his hand goes straight like that, that would be his that would be his straight fret.
okay. I see.
So it's too tiring to like fit totally fit a whole fan fret system for each individual with different
yeah.
arm lengths, different shoulder positions, different body type. Uh, and I'll give you a funny question. What do you guys think I graduated in?
Oh, I'm gonna take a wild guess. Something completely different than what you're doing now.
Yeah, but
Uh,
just guess, just guess.
I'm going to say something that would maybe pertain to woodworking.
Okay, so the answer is nursing. So,
Okay.
so in nursing we have this topic called we call this the efficiency of your movement.
Okay.
It's a topic there because you have to stand up 8 to 12 hours in a hospital taking care of people, right? So you are taught how to move, how to stand, how to sit in a certain way, how to carry stuff
Makes sense.
to preserve your mechanical energy
Yeah.
and work
Yeah.
longer. So my whole idea of making a guitar is with that.
Oh, okay. So nursing and what you learned from nursing made you want to create instruments that were not only ergonomic, but also would be beneficial to the person playing it in terms of not having like a rounded back or issues like that. So that's interesting because see, my thought initially was that you got into guitar, and this was just me assuming that maybe you got into guitars by like doing some woodwork or maybe construction or something like that, because we find a lot of people that are manual that go towards this, but you went from taking care of people to building instrument, which is a massive shift when you think about it.
Super swing.
The funny thing is, when I was younger, well, I look young because I'm Asian, but when I was younger,
What are you saying? I look
the first
old?
thing I learned no, man, you look the perfect guy from Simpsons episode that I was watching.
Nice.
So, so the thing was, when I was in high school or like first, second year college, the first thing I learned on a guitar before intonating, I know how to string and all of that stuff, but where I came from, there were no luthiers. You had to do everything yourself. So I was learning how to play Malmsteen, and I was like, how can I get that note right? And I read, okay, scallop fret. That's the first thing I learned how to do, was scalloping my fretboard. It was before the intonating thing, which was completely wrong, but okay.
And did you
Yeah, so it's
did you scale up the whole fretboard, or just like beginning at some fret?
Yeah, everything.
Wow.
No, everything.
I'm asking.
Yeah. Like then I learned.
I'm asking.
Okay.
I'm asking because I've seen scale up fretboards is a thing that you either completely like or you don't like it at all, and then there are these guys who will scallop, let's say the last 12th fret, for example, or the last. I know that one of the Ibanez Jam guitars had it done that way.
Steve Vai does that, yeah.
So, yeah, exactly. But the thing that the most ridiculous thing is when you actually think, hey, I'm good at like modifying my guitar, I can do this myself. Dude, I've seen some DIY attempts on scallop fretboards that are absolutely, it's like, okay, you want to scallop your fretboards, or you want to carve a landscape into your neck? Because that's what it looked like.
Well,
absolutely terrible.
To give them the guys who tried some credit. If they get past on their failures at making a guitar, they will 100% be better. That's the beauty of it.
Yes, 100%.
So
that reminds me of something my dad used to say when I was young. He used to say, competence will cost you money, but incompetence will cost you even more money. So if you're like, you bring your guitar to a luthier, he'll scallop your neck. It's going to cost you a shit ton, but you're paying for his expertise.
Yeah.
But if you're the dumbass like me, who's like scalloping like a 1960s Fender Strat neck, just so I can be like Yngwie Malmsteen, that will cost you a fuck ton of money, because now you're an idiot doing something you shouldn't be doing. So when you go with this philosophy, right? You go with the concept that, maybe some guy like you, Kenzo, starts, scalloping a neck and you go, I fucked this up. But if you keep at it, you're going to get good, and then people are going to pay you to scallop their neck and, improve their instrument. Yeah. But if you're just like some Joe Blow like me trying to do that shit, now, dude, it's going to cost you a fortune, because you're going to ruin stuff. Or, some guy trying to mod his pedal, he's got like, this exotic pedal, and he reads on a forum online that if you take this capacitor, or if you remove this op amp, and then you fuck up your pedal, there's a lot of people that cost them a shit ton of money.
Are you talking about my childhood? Are you talking about my childhood? I remember like changing an IC of a Boss pedal and like fucked up the whole PCB board because the soldering iron was too hot. Like, then there was one time that I was trying to fix a tube amp, and I forgot to ground myself.
Nice.
Then I touched the switch and just sat there for like good 30 minutes or something. Like, I'm not gonna do this ever again in my life.
I think that's the difference between, let's say, someone like yourself and someone like me. Like, even Frank does, like, he's into like the technical stuff, but I'm not. And I remember when I was young, I used to read like guitar magazines, and Eddie Van Halen would like modify stuff, and I was like, man, I want to be the next Eddie Van Halen. So my dad had a music store, and I remember he had like this cheap guitar on the wall, and we lived right behind the store. Okay, so I could just open the door, walk into his music store, and do whatever the fuck I want after hours. So I remember grabbing like this Japanese like 60s guitar. Back then they were like $30. Like they weren't worth that much.
Yeah.
And I took everything out, but without any knowledge. I was like 14, 15. So I took the pickups out. I was cutting cables and shit. And then I was like, what do I do next? But there was like no internet at the time, right? So I put everything back into the guitar, put the strings back on. I put it on the wall, and some client came over, grabs the guitar, plugs it in, and there's nothing. And he looks at my dad going, the guitar's not working. My dad, what the fuck do you mean the guitar's not working? My dad grabs it and is like, all right, fuck, give me $10. So I fucked up his guitar, cost him money. And then I'm in the background going, oh, fuck. And I did that more than once. And at some point he caught on and he was like, why the shit break in my store? And this fucking idiot who thinks he's Eddie Van Halen and can just take shit apart. But the thing is, I don't have the mindset to learn this stuff. It's like I want to. I'm very impulsive. I get into it and then I go, what the fuck am I doing? Been at this for 2 hours and I still haven't fixed anything. And actually, I ruined it. So my question, I went a long way to get to the question, but I wanted to set the stage for not everybody can do this. How did you know by tinkering like this that you could actually do it? Did you ever get discouraged, or were you like learning this stuff and it made sense to you as you were like taking shit apart?
I can curse, right?
Mm-hmm.
I have the most bullshit introductory story of how to become a guitar maker.
Sure,
To be
let's
honest.
hear it.
Let's hear it.
So, 2015, I left my job. 2015 or 2016. 2 weeks after that, like, okay, I resigned. I did a power move. Fuck, I don't have a job. What am I gonna do? So what I did was, with the money I had, was like, okay, I'll just buy a guitar because I did enjoy playing guitar. I didn't hold or play a guitar for 5 years.
Wow.
When I bought a guitar, it's like, okay, this is how I'll fix it. So it basically, I did spend more time fixing my own guitar when I came back. Then I went to like a small bar that had a blues jam. Then I met people there. They were asking me, who fixed your guitar? Why is it the setup is done quite okay? It's quite good. I said, me. I didn't know it was a job.
Oh, really? Okay.
Oh,
I didn't know it was a skill. I thought it was really like, okay, if I learn a guitar, so I should know how to fix my guitar. It's like, like you have a car and change my oil or something like that. So I thought it was like something normal. I didn't know it was a job. In the first clients I had, because I didn't take it seriously, I just knew how to fix guitars. The simpler were like doing setup and a little bit of electronics, like changing pot and stuff. Because before I quit guitar, I was already changing pots and doing shieldings and stuff. So I had some background when I was in college or even younger than that. What happened was, I would just ask my customers, okay, just pay me like one Big Mac and one Big Coke and we're good. But it became to a point that I had 5 Big Macs a day. Like, oh my God, I should be charging money for this, man. So, 5 Big Macs. Yeah. That's the secret, man. That's the secret. So, yeah, then 6 months after that or a year after that, I met somebody who was doing it a longer time than me. Then they just said, why not take it seriously? I did. What happened was, we had something happened to my shop that he asked me, do you want to like have a shop in my shop?
Okay.
So while I was in his shop, it wasn't like he was spoon feeding me the knowledge. Like I could see what he was doing, so I could learn from what he was doing. And that was a good thing and every time I had questions, he would answer only like an open-ended thing.
Okay.
So he would let me think of how to fix the thing.
Oh, okay.
So what happened was, years later, like, of course, I separated. I had my own shop, right? You could never see that I came from his shop. The guitars I make and these guitars that he makes are like totally separate entities. A person would never guess that I had, an influence from this person. It's the same with Remco. So Remco, we just kept chatting because his headless bridge actually saved me from one client. We bought some European bridge that I will not name. We bought it for like 400 euros for only 6 saddles. 400 euros, and it didn't work. This was like headless thing was quite new for a builder. Like these are the only few hardwares you can get. The issue with that bridge was every time you lock in the string, you pull a bend, the string pops out.
Oh,
jeez.
Okay.
Yeah. So on Remco's bridge, he actually saved me. That's why so we had a relationship. Then I started learning CAD on my own in the pandemic. So basically, the whole story is from 2016 up to now. It was quite a fast pace of where I am now.
Okay.
So that's why I do not have like a good like story background on how I started, like a mystifying, amazing story. Because for me, it was like total bullshit. Because for a while, it's like I just resigned, then I opened the shop. Then the next year, I was in a guy with a guy in his shop. Then the next year, I was at NAM with my third guitar.
Yeah.
Then I came back, opened my shop. Then the pandemic started. Then we went 3D during the pandemic. Then I went to Guitar Summit. It was super fast paced. I think because I didn't have the time to like dwell like 1 year vintage guitar, 1 year ergonomics, 1 year. No, I didn't have that. It was super for me. It was like fast paced learning something, doing it immediately, learning something, doing it immediately. Fuck it up, do it again, you do it again, or something like that. So it's like, I don't know. It's not like an origin story of great grandeur. I think.
Yeah, but it's like depending. I can relate to that in a certain way, depending on when you learned things and where you learned things. Your history can be completely different. Give you an example. I started working in this industry in 1997 while I was still going to school, and I started to work at a small music retailer in my hometown. Due to the size and due to the structure, I had to learn not only to learn about everything that was in that department, and it was the guitar department. So I had to learn about all the guitars, all the differences, like what are pickups, etc., etc. I had knowledge, pre-hand knowledge, but obviously, like the essential stuff you learned there. But I also had to learn about like changing strings, readjusting guitars, and changing pickups, soldering, etc., etc. So they gave me a very complete set of skills in order to be able to do everything, whatever was needed.
True.
Now, fast forwarding, if we look at today's music stores, all these things are very separated. If you go and you make an apprenticeship at a European store today, and you work in the guitar department, that's all you do. You do not learn about like how to repair guitars, or how to like maybe changing strings should be like a basic set of skill, but you don't learn about like soldering, and it doesn't get too much into detail. You are more stuck with the sales part now than you are with like getting the entire set of skills. So it really depends. So the fact that your story like vastly differs from the story of how other people got into like building instruments and repairing and modifying instruments is maybe just the simple fact of where you are located and how you kind of approached it in the first place. You know?
Yeah.
I have a question.
I remember starting this whole thing with only like $60. I just bought some Allen keys, and that's the start of the whole business.
That's crazy. That brings me to a question, Kenzo, and feel comfortable if you don't want to answer. It's totally cool.
Go.
But I've noticed that a lot of the people we've had on so far, a lot of them say that they have ADHD. And is this something that you struggle with? Do you have ADHD? Because I'm kind of seeing from your origin story that you went from having a job in one trade, quitting it almost impulsively, and throwing yourself into something else almost impulsively, and then learning all this shit super quick. Is this how it happened, or am I misinterpreting?
No, so before I left my job, I was there for 5 years or 4 years. So it wasn't like I was already quitting for 2 years, but I just, you need the plan. So the thing is, the ADHD part, it's normal for something you are interested in. That's what I think of it. So I'm very interested with guitars, how to make guitars, and then the ergonomic guitars, aside from the sound of the guitar.
Okay.
So it's something that just came into my lap again, that I realized it came back to my life because I really loved it when I was young.
Okay.
So it was
because I did tinker when I was young. So that being, it came back to my life when I was older. It means, maybe I'm really for this one.
Okay. Yeah, because I've noticed there's sometimes when we talk to guests, or even when I talk to other musicians, sometimes there's like this I wouldn't say ability, but this innate nature in musicians to like take a risk that other people wouldn't take. Like they're going to go like, I'm making $50,000 a year with this job. It's a cush job. I start at 5, start at 9, finish at 5. And then they're like, fuck this. I'm going to become a rock star. And then they just quit everything and they go ahead, right? And there's like no plan B. And I'm like that. And I noticed that when I talk to other creative people, they're like that too. Like Brian Wampler, we had him on. He was saying like he was working construction and then he started building pedals and he went like, okay, well, I'm going to start building pedals full time. We had Chris Jupiter on and he was like building pedals for fun and he wasn't charging. He was saying like how he didn't think it was cool to charge. And then his mindset switched, and then he went like full gusto with the company.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of people like that come in, and much like yourself, they like plunge in, and it's as if like there's no fear to do it. Like they don't think like, who the fuck am I to do this? People just jump in, and that's why I was asking about the ADHD, because in my personal experience, like I remember going to a school for I wanted to learn audio engineering. And I'm in this school. I like quit my band. I quit my job. We moved to a different town, but it wasn't a big move. We get there. I start studying, and I hated the fucking teachers. Only had 2 of them, and they were idiots. I hated them. So I quit that school, and I moved my family from one end of Canada to the other. We're talking 4,000 miles. My wife is pregnant, about to give birth. We don't have a family doctor, but I'm like, I'm going to become an audio engineer. I quit everything. I just like not thinking of a plan B. I wasn't worried that my decision was fucking stupid. I just went ahead, and I find that every time I talk to musicians or creative people, they're like that. They take like really fucking big risks, but every time it pays off. And it seems like for you, it's paying off. Like you're having all these opportunities. Do you find that this is what helps you have success? It's just like this blind focus going into your business and not having all the crippling self-doubt?
Like for example, we met in Guitar Summit, right? I'll give you a difference in mindset of an exhibitor, some exhibitors. When exhibitors come to the show, they come to the show expecting to get a connection to make a sale, correct? Or make a sale. That is the majority, the mindset of. In my mindset, it's totally the opposite. My mindset is when I went to NAM and I went to Guitar Summit, it was like an exam.
Okay.
That's the whole idea, the exam. I would go to other luthiers, ask them, what can I do better with my guitar? I did this even in Guitar Summit. I asked Nick Huber and asked Shabat, Avi, everybody. So my mindset in call this exhibit are just to have an exam. So I would get feedback from people to make another better guitar. That was my whole mindset of why I would go to shows. Even the next time if I would go to a show, it will be the same. Like I would learn, okay, the reason why that guitar company sells more is because of that. And that company sells more because of that.
Right.
It's not for me. I just want to learn the whole industry. And going to shows for me is like, I cannot experience that here. If I stay in my country, it will never happen. I'll never learn new things or deal with new people or different outlooks in the guitar industry if I stay in one place.
Makes sense.
I have a question around that. So I know that these days with the internet, obviously it's easier to connect to people. It's easier to reach people, unless they don't respond at all. You know, I've had instances where I was trying to establish my pedal business, and I was reaching out to people, and I wouldn't just get an answer from anyone. You know, because they're getting shit tons of emails every day. So we have the internet; it definitely helps. But apart from the internet, if how difficult is it for you to kind of break out of your region and like get to know people? Because obviously with us being in Europe, situated in Europe, we have a couple of countries just around the corner, and for us it's easier to for us it's easier to kind of break out and you know get to see more people. But for you, it has to be obviously situated in the Philippines, has to be a lot more difficult. Maybe you can elaborate on that.
So what happens is, let's say somebody from outside the country asks me to make them a guitar. It takes longer, like really long. Like sometimes an inquiry will be like 4 months of you guys just talking.
Wow.
Like for maybe 30 minutes a day. Because at the end of the day, it's like guys who ask somebody to make something for somebody else, it's a thing of trust. And you know, Asia, if I was seated in Europe, even though let's say I was in Germany and this guy who wants to buy a guitar from Italy, you're still in Europe. So it's still somehow local. Same with the US. So the difference now will go which country has more buying power.
Yeah, it's true.
So the reason why I think Asia isn't really going up with that standard is because we already know guitars made in Europe and made in the US have a better quality in a certain types of body shape and certain type of pickup or something like that. We already know because I kind of proved that in Guitar Summit. I went to one brand. I will not name the brand. I went to one brand to check their lower end line, and that was also sold in my country. For some reason, I know what I had in my country were all B stocks.
Wow. Okay.
So it's the same with that's why example for me. I may be situated in the Philippines, but every material that I buy is still overseas. I haven't gotten anything local yet. Even the woods that I would buy, sometimes a local supplier may buy them, but I still buy imported wood. So since the beginning. So it's like for me to go to the international market is, I think it's just more of you just need to expose yourself more of what your guitars can provide to. I think it's the same with any business. If you provide more value than what you are costing, then it's a good deal. That I think about it. The problem with the guitar industry is, my personal opinion, is the guitar industry is very conservative.
Oh yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Tell me about it.
I'll give you an example. It's like, so fan frets, 1990s. When did it hit? 2010. Even the guy who made it didn't enjoy the benefits of what he made. Even what call this? Now all of these stuff that are coming out, they were all done in the 80s anyway. I've seen it done in the 90s. They were different
Yep.
looking, but the idea was the same.
Yeah.
Steinberger headless
So
guitars in the 1980s.
Yeah.
yeah,
You know?
yeah. It's like the only thing that's new for me on guitars is maybe making it better, like just improving on it. But the original idea was already there. It's not like the marketing stuff is different as well. So like even this artist came back with new signature model from this company, and they had Steinberger tuner. Nobody gave an ass of what a Steinberger tuner was for what 30, 20
Mhm.
years, and now it's the best tuner ever. Fuck.
Yeah. It's
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's like even with pedals, right? Like there are circuits that are already proven. Then if you improve on the circuit, it becomes really, really good. But people don't want to try it. That's the problem. It's like they don't want to try it. They don't want to buy using their ears, like on the pedal. That's what I've learned buying pedals when I was younger up to now. Like, okay,
yeah. It's
I get this
yeah.
pedal.
You're
This is really
absolutely
good. Why isn't it?
yeah. Yeah. It's you're absolutely right. It's super funny. We had a kind of a similar point going on with Brian Wampler where we said, you look at some of the circuits, you're like, okay, that is great, but there's room for improvement. And then you kind of adapt that idea,
Yeah,
but you kind of also try to like make all the improvements, which might result in you're ending up having a pedal that has 6 controls instead of 3, or 3 and a switch or
yeah,
something. Has
yeah,
six controls, and you're like, this
yeah,
is great. People are gonna love that because now they can kind of dial in if they want the original or
yeah.
if they want like the improved version. And then you bring that out and people are like,
I can finally
yeah,
fix
yeah,
the thing.
exactly.
Mhm.
And then
What the fuck is that?
exactly. And then you come around with that pedal and they're like, oh, pedal with 6 knobs, I don't know, man. And they're not even trying it, It's like,
That's the thing. Yeah, that's the thing. So sometimes I see that's a good thing when you know maybe guitar players that know how to play.
yeah, yeah,
So once they can try your stuff, pedal, guitars, amps, they would know by ear if it feels different or
yeah,
something's different. Because what I've noticed with my clientele for the past few years is I was blessed with clients that really knew what they
yeah,
wanted, and because I also had to make my own pickup.
Oh, really?
So yeah, uh, but that's another story. There's another hard business
okay,
of reality in there.
Yeah.
But but I had to make pickup on my own because if I was buying like the boutique stuff that would cost like 500 euros,
Yeah.
no, I just rather make my own than maybe get near that sound. Yeah. So the thing is, the beauty of feedback from your customers, like on a job, on what I did before, I'm trying to transition it out now. But the beauty of what happened before was I got to learn from my
yeah,
clientele. Like they would give me, even if I would lose money on it, I would, oh my God, I really lost money on it, let's be honest. So, so, so I would redo a neck. For one client, I did the neck thrice.
oh, okay,
For one client, I made 5 sets of pickup
Jeez.
just to find I want more high end on this pickup. Okay. I want more mids on this pickup. Okay. I did maybe okay. Until the fifth time. All right. Then you lug it down. Oh, okay, this is the one that worked. Then you try it again with another one.
wow,
Okay, it worked immediately to him. So that sticks. So so it was a. I think that's the problem of new guitar builders like me,
yeah,
because we go into this business because of the love that we want to make with the products we
yeah,
want to
Yeah.
make. Problem is, it's not a business. So if the passion is so high, so high
It's
that that you forget that, oh my god, I need to make a profit to live. But the thing is, you want to prove that the theory is correct or wrong with whatever you do. I think that's the ADHD part of that my thing. Like I will really prove if this really works or not. Even the curve frets, I had to prove it to myself that it works or not.
yeah.
That's why it took 2 years.
At the same time,
Because my system and Oni system are even Oni tells me that, even Daniel tells me, what you're doing is totally different from mine.
Okay.
I know, but it still stems from you.
it sounds like the payoff for you is really the knowledge that you're gaining right now. It seems like you're in a phase where
Yeah.
you want to understand it. Maybe, and I don't know because I don't have a business, but maybe once you have a grasp of what makes sense, what is repeatable, maybe that's where the money comes in.
Yeah.
And by that time, you're probably
Yeah.
going to have a solid income, because a lot of time, all the people I've talked to that had like business ventures, there's so many things that they don't know about whatever industry they're getting into. So let's say you're building pedals, right? So you start off with like building little kits. You're like, hey, I'm pretty good with a soldering iron, so I'm going to start building pedals. And then you start to build pedals, but you're going to get good at that. But how do you build the contacts with distributors? How does it work if you want to sell direct? Do you have to have a website? You have to take pictures. You have to do demos. You have to be on social media and have a presence. There's all this other stuff that oftentimes when you start a business, you don't know about because there's not a school to teach you this stuff. So from
especially this one.
exactly. And now you were saying that you're building your own pickups, but if you were to, let's say, take the same motivation and you lived in the US or Canada or somewhere in Europe, and you had a client that came over to you and said, I don't like this neck, I want you to redo this neck, technically it would cost them a fucking fortune, because you'd be like, hey buddy, like if you want me to redo that neck, I'll be glad to do it. I just want you to know this is how many hours I'm going to be working at it, and the more shit you ask me, the more that bill is going to go up. So I think that
and here I didn't do that. Like I really didn't do that. I had one client that the guitar was already done, literally done. Okay, so I'm just being transparent. Literally done. They approved it, and suddenly just want to. I just want to be refunded.
Fuck.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, fine. We were good friends for like how many years anyway, so I'll give you that refund. But the thing is, that's because I'm just want to make guitar. It's not me running a business. Because if I was running a business, every revision would cost somebody money.
Yeah, exactly.
So the thing is, what I learned from the show, I told you it was an exam. What I learned from the other builders was, they told me you should stop doing everything everybody wants and try to just make something that works for you. Because if you know it works for you, it will 100% work for somebody else. Yeah, that's why that Guitar Summit thing was really good for me.
Nice.
Because I really needed all of that stuff. You can't get that. Like me talking to Henning, Perth, Kaylin, you got Jonathan. I didn't meet Frank, but I know he was downstairs. So talking to other guitar builds and other people in this industry made me that system that I knew and grew up here that works here, it's not gonna work forever. I have to that's why I took the drastic change to do something else. Because if I kept doing, I could still survive with it. The problem is it will not work in the long run. I would grow old and be
frustrated. You don't like this neck? Fuck it.
There you go.
Oh man.
So you were telling us that at first you were building custom guitars, and now you're transitioning to having a more streamlined, like dedicated models that are going to be easier for you to produce. Can you tell us more about how that shift came about?
Yeah, it's basically because of guitars.
Okay.
Because that's why I said it's an exam. So every exam you learn something from the exam, right? So what I learned from that exam for me, like, okay, you didn't know this, but every morning I would go actually to other builders, bring my guitar, tell me what's wrong.
Okay.
I even did it in front of clients, like that we were asking. I didn't really care. I even asked Nick Kober, like, could you tell me how could I improve? He said, okay, I'll go to your booth. Went to my booth, told this. But before he told me that, he said, how honest do you want it to be? He said, you can burn me in hell if you want to.
Right.
Like, okay, let's go. So he told me all of that. So after that, I was invited by another friend to go lunch with Shabat and Mahmoud and another guitar builder from Finland. And they were talking shop. And I was just there like the kid going, wow,
Yeah.
that's nice. So from all the conversations I had there and listening to other people, it's like, okay, because these guys already told me, you could have done this better if you focused on this. Because they told me that directly. It wasn't like they're not telling me because I'm competition. They were just telling me because, oh man, I know where you're going. If you do this, you're gonna do the same mistake as us. It's like something I felt it from them. Like if they let me still do what I do, I would fail or have a big thing that would happen that they had done in the past. So they were telling me, no, do this because you need to avoid the pitfall of a guitar maker doing that. So it's an exam. That's all it is. This is what I think about show. It's the same with my first NAM. My first NAM, I was being recruited to another US company.
Oh, okay.
To become a builder for them. I didn't, and my thought was, wait a minute. If you're recruiting me, a nobody from some Asian country, means they have something maybe.
Yeah.
Like I should maybe learn something else. Maybe take it seriously more. That was the takeaway I got from that. And that guitar builder that tried to recruit me for his company, we became good friends. We just stopped talking in the pandemic because I lost my phone and all of that stuff. But when we were talking, he was like, you know what, you could do this. You don't need this. You could do that. So there was a lot of guidance from other people. I think that's the way. I think that's how I got fast tracked to everything.
Okay.
Because there was a lot of people giving me input in different things. Then I was just absorbing everything. Like, okay, and do that.
It makes sense. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you were telling us also about, well, at least you were telling me about how you started to hire local kids to work with you. So at some point, you started to hire some people. Can you tell us like the mindset, how you went about doing that, and the reason why you did it?
Oh man, it's so gonna be so dumb. But the main reason is, okay, you're interested in it? You're interested doing this? Okay, let's go. We'll try it out. I'll give them a wage and see how it goes. Because I'll be honest, becoming a guitar builder or becoming a guitar repair person is no matter who teaches you. If it's in you, it's in you.
Yeah. That's true.
It has to be really in you. So I've taught people. There are people that would use my shop as well. That really was just there to pass time, and there was even I had now that you mentioned, I had this one girl that she didn't have anything to do for the summer. Like, okay, how about learning to make pickups? I taught her how to make pickups. She made really good pickups, even better than mine. Then she just stopped.
Okay.
So it's like now these guys that are now the owners of the shop. Okay, the reason why I can fully confidently give them the shop, the guitars you saw on Guitar Summit were all made by them.
Okay.
Wow. Okay.
So being that I already don't have a very standard guitar and they're able to make my guitar, it means I'm confident that they can run a repair shop 100%
Mm.
because I already made the risk of like testing it out. Because this plan of me giving the shop to my guys was like 2 years ago, and I had different people then that didn't want it.
Mm.
But these guys, they proved themselves that they can do it. I bought the guitars in Guitar Summit. They were okay. Come back, all of the talk makes my decision to split. So, this is a good idea.
Mm.
Yeah.
Nice.
So where are you going now with your endeavors? So you gave the shop to those employees so they can keep doing the custom stuff. What?
No, they're just
They're
repairs.
doing repairs. Okay, so they're
repairs.
going to take care of the repairs. And you were saying that you're kind of
I'm finishing current jobs.
okay.
I'm finishing the current list of custom guitars that I need to finish
And what?
before I separate.
Okay, and what do you do after?
Well, I get a 2 months break and enjoy the sun. But
Nice.
yeah, you gotta need it sometime.
Yeah.
But yeah, then go back to like, okay, these are the things that I need for my guitars. I'm already in talk with 2 pickup companies that are happy to work with me for the guitars.
That's
Cool.
Yeah, so I think even the new logo of the new brand, like you would have to pay somebody to make that for you, but somebody in Europe just made it for me and just sent me, here's your new logo.
Cool.
Okay. So it's like I'm doing that basing on the advice that I had from people in Guitar Summit and everybody I've met. It's like to run like, okay, these are my 4 standard models or 5 standard models, and these are the options you can do.
Okay.
And I could finally focus. So the thing is, guitar building doesn't take long. This is all honesty. Honesty. It doesn't take long as there is nothing that will keep changing in between what you're doing.
Yeah.
So, example, if my client tells me now, well, this happened a lot of times before, you had 1 week to release the guitar. He knows that you'll get this guitar in 1 week, and he'll ask you to change the finish.
Oh, yeah.
How? But we did. But the thing is, like, if you just made guitars like, okay, I would make this in flame purple, flame blue, flame whatever. You already know it's gonna be flame blue, flame purple, flame whatever. Your brain is like gonna be fast because you know it's gonna be this one, and it's not gonna change in the middle.
Yeah.
Right.
I think the difference of guitar companies and maybe smaller builders are they do the same thing, but it's in mass quantity. That's why it takes long.
Let's see.
So, like for example, an order for an Asian company is like one guitar model, 5 different colors of 100 each. So it will take long because it's like 500 guitars, but it's the same. It's like 100 of them.
It's
the same
repeatable.
color.
Yeah.
It's repeatable. That's why they make money out of it. So that's how it runs as a business. For builders like me who want to do one-off stuff or standard models with different things catered to somebody, we can make it fast as long as the plans are set in stone that it's not going to change until it's done. Because I've seen guitar builders that have like 1 year wait times. I know they've been done for 3 months. It's just they want it to be there at their house until they release it to 1 year.
Yeah, it's and that's the interesting part. You said like it's repeatable, and that's why there's money in it. We also have to factor in a little bit that there is money
Yeah,
in it for the companies who have them produced somewhere, because we have a complete
true, true.
different like minimum wage in some parts of the world where in
True,
others. Like
true,
if I look
true.
at some of the stuff that's being made in Indonesia, for example, there's this big
Okay.
OEM manufacturer called Roxy PT, who is like
Court.
making guitars for, I think it's let me think.
I think Frank is frozen.
Oh, so
We got
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Oh,
so
he's
it's
back. He's
like
back.
Roxy PT, for example, in yeah,
Oh, Roxy.
they're
Yeah,
making
yeah,
guitars for, or they used to make guitars for Chapman. They're doing stuff for Harley Benton, like for all these different companies, and they can offer them at a competitive price depending on the total order amount, obviously, because the minimum wage over there is way lower than in other countries. That's why
yeah,
you
yeah,
will
yeah.
most likely never see some kind of
Make money.
high scale production in Europe. And I'm not talking, I mean, there are companies that manage to build a decent amount of guitars, but impossible to compare.
It's not
Yeah,
going to be the same
exactly.
scale.
But they won't be able to scale it
Yeah,
up to the stuff,
not the same scale.
to some of the stuff that Roxy does, or that Court PT does, or and all these other big OEM manufacturers. It's just impossible, because there's a different
Yeah.
different salary minimum in these parts of the world,
Yeah.
and
So
I assume that that's the same in the Philippines.
yeah, that's the reason why I did that
Yeah.
decision. Because if the salary here is like 10, 12 pounds a day,
Wow.
euros a day, literally a day,
Yeah, which is not a lot at all.
right?
Wow.
It's not a lot. So what happens is all of the profits of the repairs, they have it. They make twice or thrice the annual daily or
Mm.
more than that. So they can have a family. Because the thing is with employment is the business people forget is business used to be that when you employed somebody, you took care of them and their family.
Yes.
Now it's like, oh, you're the disposable guy. I don't like that. So I would rather have this employee or assistant owned shop
Yeah.
because I know their lives will be much better. Like even like they grow older, like for 10 years more or 15 years more, whatever they decide on, they're not gonna be financially in a bind to make
Yeah.
a decision.
Yeah. It's
So it's more of like you. I don't know where I heard it, but you give more, you get more.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, I wish that was the general kind of attitude for a lot of things. Sadly,
It's not.
sadly, it's
Sadly,
not, and it's not even very far away from us. As far as like looking into industry, I know that there are industries that are way worse off when it comes to
Oh yeah.
that attitude. But essentially, if in our industry you want to run a certain operation and you want it to be profitable, you just hand out the minimum. You just hand out the minimum. It's a fact.
Yeah.
And the whole thing with you give more, you get more. I think some of the people, some of the companies that have picked up on that and run with that attitude, I also see those much more successful. Maybe not in the ranks of some of these big companies, but it always depends on what your expectations are. Yeah.
Peace of mind.
And a peace of mind.
The
Yeah,
peace of mind of
100%,
the
100%, 100%. Yeah.
There's peace of mind, but there's also a value you were talking about that we've lost throughout time. You were talking about having these people that work for you be financially sound, and their companies taking not only care of your employee but taking care of their family.
Yeah.
Nowadays, I don't know what it's like in the Philippines, but I know like when I was working in Canada, a company taking care of you meant that they were taking a certain percentage off your paycheck so you could have dental and have glasses. And even then, they weren't covering half the shit you needed,
Yes.
right? And that's how they took care of you. And when you go
Yeah,
on
I know.
vacation, you say, "Hey, I want 2 weeks off." It's 4% of whatever you made, and that's what you get. So you get a really fucking small paycheck when you come back to work.
Yeah.
So now you have an incentive to work more because you didn't make that much money when you were on vacation. And that mindset is really, it's got people by the throat because everyone is thinking in a greedy way when you do that.
The reason why I said it that way because I remember my uncle working for a pharmaceutical company before.
Okay.
It's like and everything was provided by the company when he retired, or even during he was working. Then he told me, you know what, the difference of the new pharmaceutical reps and my time is so different because the new reps are just disposable. In my years, we were not disposable. They would spend more to keep us because they knew that the logic in business here is if you keep rehiring, you keep spending on retraining.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So if you give them a better living wage, they stick to your company. They enjoy working, you enjoy working with them, and you guys stay together. That's the whole idea. But now it has become, oh, you're disposable. I would get another woodworker, another sander, another painter, another something like that. But the problem is 6 months with your new hire, like you're training another kid to walk.
Yeah.
So I don't get the idea why an employer would think a person is disposable in the job.
Yeah, oftentimes,
You know what I mean?
it's because oftentimes with a business, because we're talking about like someone who's starting a small business and you're trying to learn the business side. But these big corporate entities, they've figured out that they can squeeze the lemon from all sides. Okay. So I've worked in jobs where I was like a henchman. I was at the bottom, and I've worked in more manager positions. And you get to see things that are fucking disgusting, and they are like really Western based capitalist systems. And I have nothing against making money, but the way they do it is by squeezing the lemon as much as they can. Frank was talking about like how he worked in retail and he got to see everything. So he got like a really good rounded training. But now the people that are coming up doing the same thing he was doing back in 97, they don't get to see how to set up a guitar because they don't have time for that. And the training the training you were talking about now is disposable. You sit at a fucking computer for 3 hours, you have multiple choices, you just click, and you just have to retain the information so that you do that, and then you get on the work floor and they don't care what the fuck you do. And if you're, painting guitars, if you're setting up a guitar neck and a company has that mindset, whatever's coming out of that shop is not up to the standard of the customer. So the values that you're instilling, where you're actually showing them the rope, seeing if a person actually has the aptitude to do this, means that they're going to have a very successful repair shop for that environment. It doesn't need to be a successful repair shop for the entire world and becoming famous and everyone knows your name. Success is something you set yourself. And the success, it seems that it goes with your values, what you want to instill in your employees, and to foster that kind of value in them too. Because if you give them that, they're going to pick up some kid at some point and say, hey, come on down to the shop. I'll show you.
That's the goal.
And that's brilliant.
That's the goal. That's the goal.
It's brilliant. I love it.
So the whole idea came from the company Taylor. They're 100%, maybe 95 employee-owned company. All of their employees have shares with the company, And I think that's the reason why they are more successful than the other ones. Aside from they're already gigantic even before, but I mean because they made
Yeah.
that shift, the people that work there love to work there, and the people who buy the guitars feel that the guitar was taken better care of when it was left
Very
out.
true.
Yeah, it's true, and it's
Yeah.
we see that with a few companies now. There is a retailer in it was original from Scotland, but they also have like branches in the UK, which is Guitar, and Guitar is also completely completely employee owned now, and we see that trend more and more because it's a very effective way, and I know saying it's an effective way sounds like super like surgical, but I'm it's in the end it's like if your employees are directly responsible for the success of the company, they are going to be engaged. They're going to be engaged, and since they are also more involved in like applying changes or improving things, they are also going to be more involved in like, okay, how can we improve things? How can we change things? And what is the outcome of that? Not only for us, because people think, like a lot of conservative people and conservative businessmen think that giving employees a part of the company or the entire company shared by everyone is a way for them to be like, okay, now we're going to apply like the best conditions for us, and then we're going to hang around all day and be lazy, which is not the case. It's not the case, because if at some point you're put in charge of your own like sort of business fate, you are going to think really well what you're going to do and how that's going to affect your business, because now you own part of it. You know, it's part of you're a partial owner of that business. So yeah, I think we are going to see more of that in the future, and I think that these companies, in comparison to others, are going to thrive, because the other thing that you said before, where there is like this pattern of fluctuation with employees, where they're like, okay, you're replaceable, and that also happens on the other end, where we recently saw that in Berlin, or like the end of this month, one of the biggest retailers in Germany with a big branch in Berlin is going to close. And one of the reasons, they haven't disclosed that, but I know it for a fact from a couple of friends in the industry. Their employee fluctuation was so heavy, and it was like people got in there with a certain expectation. They went through the trainee period, 2 months, and then after a month, or 3 months into the whole thing, they suddenly were like, "Oh, that's not what I expected working in a music retailer. I'm gonna go." And then so they were training people all over, which means the experience for the customer is you go in there and it's very likely that you meet someone who has no clue how to help you because he's just training. You know, and that's a huge issue.
Yeah. Before this, I was in a sales job, and we had to train people how to sell.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. Like you would see people quit immediately after training because they already knew that's going to be hard. So I think that the industry will change in, by force. It's not going to be soon, but it's going to change because they will see that every individual who comes work for them have their own set of talents that are irreplaceable to begin with.
Yeah.
So the problem with, I think it depends on the job. So in the when I was in college, even when I was in nursing, I would go with uh, people who would be in the College of Marketing or Business, and they were talking about stats. They were telling me, you know what, the stats of call center agents have 1,000. I don't know if they exaggerated, but 300 to 1,000% that chair, the person that's sitting in there, is going to be another different person in the next 6 months. So Oh, what the hell of a burn rate is that?
Yes.
Having a better business model, especially now, because we've had this topic come up in a few episodes in the past where we're talking about future proofing your business because we're in a
Yeah.
landscape where everything's changing. So whether it's
Oh yeah, it is.
guitars, amps, pedals, especially for gear, I mean, we could extrapolate this into every sphere of our lives. But if
Yeah,
we
yeah, yeah,
keep
yeah,
it just
yeah,
for
yeah.
gear, let's say we're making guitars and someone at some point comes up with a new technology where they can make a guitar with materials that are recyclable, they're reusable,
Yeah,
they're stable. The guitar
yeah.
community's mindset has changed, and they can produce it for a fraction
Mm,
of what the standard thing would be.
yeah,
You would see a
yeah,
complete change in how we make guitars. We seen Parker kind of try to do that back in the 1990s. They were trying
yeah,
to, but the market wasn't ready for it. And I think that
yeah.
if we look forward and like let's say in 20 years and the landscape of guitar production has changed, in your opinion, what do you think would be the things we would need to improve on for builders like yourself, for bigger corporations, so that they can produce this but keep making money and not bleed out money because employees are starting sorry, employees are starting their own
So,
companies or just quitting altogether?
so I think it will run down to the the culture. But what I mean with that is when the culture becomes more open-minded to innovation, then it will change. The problem is the story of innovation is it's never
No.
profitable at the
Yeah.
beginning. It has to be proven time and time. It's like the same with the story of a cell phone. Everybody told that this is total crap and it will never catch on, and now everybody has one. The same with anything. It really depends on the culture of acceptance of the market. Paul Reed Smith said this, like, we could innovate, but the problem is it
Yeah.
acceptable?
That's true.
So, on story of Ken Parker, damn, that guy's a genius. Like, that guitar is still the best guitar. That trem system that they had with the memory foil, whatever, that's the most stablest trem I've ever tried ever in my life, and it's still hard to restore, but we did restore one a few months ago. It just proved that he knew what he was talking about, but at the time nobody was ready for
Mm-hmm.
it. Now, if you look at the next generation, that company would be
Mm.
Aristides.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's true. But
So,
it is interesting that if you look at some of these particular cases, you'll see that
mhm,
that like you see how marketing plays a very very important
yeah,
role,
uh,
because if you look at Parker, for example, as you said, at the time nobody
mhm,
gave a shit because they were like, this doesn't look like a Les Paul, this doesn't look like a Strat or something, you know. So people were like,
Yeah.
I don't care if
it
it's light, it looks weird, you know. That was the
it doesn't have a go-to.
exactly.
Mm.
And then at some point I remember that Adam, from the band Killswitch Engage, he is a person that has massive back issues, and at some point he started playing a Parker that he modified with the pickups that he likes and everything on stage because it was like super light and it was super stable for him. And
Yeah,
suddenly all of these like heavy guys wanted a Parker, you know, which is like,
Mm-hmm.
which is insane. And it's the same thing with
it has to be proven once.
exactly.
That's the thing. It
And
has to
it's
be
the same
proven once
thing.
The Iban
by somebody.
guys, the Ibanez TS10 used to sell for $40 fucking. One dude comes around, puts it on his pedal board, they skyrocket to $400.
Yeah.
What in the fuck, right? So the culture is
Uh,
weird.
It's like the same with the bad monkey,
Oh,
right? Remember the bad
Yeah,
monkey?
exact same thing. But that I think that's the really interesting like aspect of marketing, especially for companies, because we've had a lot of people come on, and when we talk about marketing, they all pretty much unanimously say like marketing is hard because it's understanding what the people want, how to market this thing, how do you do the releases, etc. So when you think about it, the Ibanez TS10, just to prove that point, right? It came out a long time ago. The casing wasn't like the best. It was an affordable pedal, and it got even more affordable because people were saying, well, it's not a TS808, right? It's not what Stevie Ray Vaughan played with. But now the new version of a Stevie Ray Vaughan would be John Mayer. And now John Mayer has it on his board because it fucking sounds good, right? It's a good pedal. Sky, the price goes up on these things. And now you have like boutique reproductions of the TS10 and you have all this shit. And it seems like we musicians, and I include myself in there, we don't know what the fuck we're talking about when it comes to gear, because we want to have what is like perceived as cool. Like we want to be the cool kids because we weren't in high school for some reason. And now we want to have like the original Klon. We want the 59 Les Paul. We want the Dumble. We want all this cool shit, but we're not actually using our ears. We're just wanting to have like this accolade from our, our friends, and we take a picture of the new pedal we got. And what do you guys think about this pedal? But what we're really trying to get is, can you guys validate I just made a good purchase? Because we're not making informed purchases. We're making them based on hype around products. And I think that's where companies are trying to infiltrate themselves. Like, what's hyped right now? Bad Monkey? Let's make a Bad Monkey. Right?
Yeah, exactly. So example,
No worries. Go on, but I'm going to say two things, and you can quote me on this. I mean, this is recorded, so I'm going to say two things. A, I'm done with this game of like trying to be the cool guy. I don't want to be the cool guy anymore. I'm just gonna use whatever I see fit and what I like. And I'm currently going through a heavy transition with my gear, where I try to like really reduce it as much as possible, because I want to kind of try to get back into the like doing everything with my hands and with my guitar instead of like having a shit ton of pedals and whatnot. So I'm a little bit of a transition. And the other thing I'm going to say is the next guy is going to come around and he's going to play a complete different pedal. And then people are going to jump on that shit, and it's going to last for 3 months. And then afterwards, you're going to see them on Reverb and on eBay. I am going to say this. If people were actually using their ears and recognize the feedback they get with their instruments from whatever gear they're using, I bet you anything that they would end up with a complete different set of pedals than what they currently have on their board. And they would even maybe say, wow, this amp sounds like shit. Is that mine or is that the other one? So
yeah.
Example for Jonathan, you just bought a new Riviera, right? The issue with that amp and Dumble is like so close.
This
like nobody even took the time to like read where the Dumble came from. Nobody took time to check the Riviera. But that Riviera is pretty well known for the top guys. The top guys knows. It's like their secret amp that they have that they never show. It's mine. It's like it's my precious thing. And that brand has always been that way. But other guitar players will never give a time of day to think about Rivera as a good amp, even though it is.
To be completely transparent here, I didn't care about Rivera for a long time because it wasn't spoken of with the same regards as like vintage Vox or Marshall and stuff like that. So like the things I'm denouncing, I'm as guilty of it as the next person. That's why I'm like saying it very adamantly. Like, we're fucking dumb musicians, like especially guitar players, and anyone that gets outraged for this, fuck off, don't care. The truth is that we jump on hypes. I remember when I started playing in the 1980s, I was just a little kid. It was the fucking rack mounts. You had a fridge filled with these rack things, man. They were selling for crazy fucking prices. And I remember going with my dad to a store in Vancouver that was called West Coast Music, and I traded a reverb tank, a Fender reverb tank from the 1960s for a Plexi. And I didn't know what a Plexi was. It was like, it wasn't a super lead. I think it was like whatever the hell it was. And I hated the fucking amp because it was like just a master volume. There was like, you took the volume, you had to crank it to get some distortion, and I hated it. I wanted a 5150. Fast forward, the 5150 back then was sold for, I don't know, like $2,000 for like the head and like two cabs. Now they're like $800.
Yeah, that's true.
And that stupid ass Plexi that I hated, I would give my 2 nuts to get back because that was a killer fucking amp. But back then, and I'm not shitting you, the floor had at least 10 of those old 1960s and early 70s Marshalls, but these guys were selling the rack mount shit. So who was right? The musicians from the 1990s or the musicians from now who are revering the old shit? Were they just dumb? They weren't using their ears? No, it's fucking trends. And we get swayed by them because back then it was like George Lynch and Eddie Van Halen. These guys had like rack mounts. So pedals, dude, they were in the showcase and they were like $40, $50. Nowadays, those $40 and $50 pedals are worth thousands. What changed?
I'll give you one example.
Yeah, go ahead.
One example is, remember the trend 2009. Well, here in Asia, it was the trend. Everybody was buying a Boss. What's the orange one? DS1 or SD1?
It's the DS1. It's yes.
Okay, so everybody bought that because Levi had it, Joe Satriani had it. Everybody bought it. Like, if they press this, I'm gonna sound the Alien Surfer thing. No, because you're plugging it in a 30-watt amp. It's not gonna work. It's like sometimes, sometimes even me, I'm guilty with guitars as well. Like, this whole tone wood discussion, and that's a whole rabbit hole to begin with. I don't say that word to them because now I understand it more. But before I did, like, oh my God, Maple's gonna do this. No. What ended up with years of researching and making guitars, construction is much more important because maple can be a violin, can be a cello. Sounds different.
Yeah.
A Fender bass has a maple neck. Sounds great. But if that's a Fender Strat with a maple neck, can sound great sometimes. So it really depends on how it's constructed. Now I see wood as a material. Like, okay, that's a material. Does it work with the other material? It's the same with that. Like, the more you go into something, you actually get to know more about the things you believed before that were maybe wrong or maybe right. So, buying gear, buying guitars, making guitars, or making pedals, or making apps. It's a journey of error.
Yeah.
It's
a journey of errors.
It's similar to what Frank talked about, and Frank, you could probably elaborate on this, but it's kind of like when you're building pedals and someone wants to have the magic diodes. Is this plopping the diodes in the pedal and not touching them what creates the magic? Can you tell us what actually is more important than just the fucking diode going into the pedal? Do you have to tweak? Do you have to check the components?
It's, there's always tolerance in components. Unless you buy components that are created with like the next door to zero tolerance. That exists as well, but you wouldn't use that for pedals because if you buy these components, they're way more expensive, and then pedals would be way more expensive as a result, obviously. But way more if like I could put I have a lot of like NOS Russian germanium diodes, which are great and they are great quality, but they are going to vary in their forward voltage. So in order to have a consistent result with every pedal that I create that has the diodes, first of all, I need to like select them to be matched and to have the forward voltage that I'm looking for to make the circuit work. That's number one. And then second, way more important than the type of diode that you put in there is what it surrounds. What does the diode actually do? And how much of an effect does it have on the overall circuit? That's the other thing. And then while we're talking about this, like what is the circuit actually doing and what does it look like? Even more important is when you factor in that certain materials also have issues with temperatures. Like everybody's always talking about germanium transistors and germanium transistors. Well, if you put a germanium transistor into a fuzz and you play it in Siberia, it's going to sound vastly different when you play it in Manila. It's because germanium transistors are dependent heavy on like constant temperature. So that makes the whole thing very, very unpredictable. There are some pedal builders who have made it like their life's goal to be consistent, and they're buying a lot of components, and they're tossing 50% of them. They're thrown away because they wouldn't serve. They wouldn't serve for the purpose, or like they're reselling them or something. And then a pedal that they make, although it's just a simple fuzz, ends up costing 800 euros. Because then the other question is, are people willing to pay that money? Then we're back at marketing,
So I have one friend who makes pedal. He orders like 200 capacitors or something of just one component. Tries to test everything out. Throws like how many? Because this cannot be. This cannot be. And it's like, oh my god, it's like this is gonna be a good business, but damn, that's like a lot of work for. That's why I got a lot of respect for pedal builders, because even though the circuit is simple, it can be simple, right? Like super simple. But the problem is like finding the right components to make that simple circuit be the optimal way that it would work. It's so hard. So I had clients before that were asking me, why would I buy this X amount of pedal that costs like, your house rent for this month or something? And this pedal, that costs you like a bus fare. And I was like, well, why not just try both? We tried both, and he understood that, okay, I may not be able to buy that, but I believe that one's better. So what happened to that guy was, I didn't answer him directly what would be the difference. I don't know. But he used his ears, and he knew why it was.
And that's
the thing. I had one client before. He's in the UK now. What he is, I can't say the word, but he's a guy that would test every guitar, even cheap or expensive. He would be really honest with you and say it's shit or not. And he would always tells me, like, if I made a new guitar, he would try it out when he's in the country. Say, oh damn, it sounds like a guitar. And that's it. That's all it out. It's like, okay, it sounds like a guitar. Plays well. Then come back another year, like test another guitar. Like, now this sounds more like a guitar. So, he was like, he was listening to his ears. He doesn't care about the brand of what he buys. He just, okay, if it's good, it's good. If it's bad, it's bad. If it's bad and I bought it, I just sell it. That's his whole thing.
It's that simple sometimes. 100%.
What you're saying, Kenzo, kind of, if we can simplify that concept. Let's say all three of us go to a restaurant and we order burgers. Do we want to know where the flour that was used to make the hamburger bun came from?
Hell no.
Do we care what tool they used to grind the beef? It's like Those are questions that are completely irrelevant because for your satisfaction, when you bite into that hamburger, is it giving you the experience you want? You don't care where the bread came from or the tomatoes, whether they were organic or if they were store-bought. Like, that shit doesn't matter to you because you're at the restaurant, you buy it, you want to enjoy it. And guitar, to me, now is starting to be that. I used to give a shit about where the provenance of the wood came from, if it was hand wired, if it was hand built. And hand built is kind of stupid because there is no fucking computer box that you can just throw the wood in there and it makes the guitar for you and you just grab it, it's all strung up and ready to go. Everything is built by hand. It's just that some parts of the manufacturing is assisted by computers, but it's often the things that you have the most human errors in if you don't have that. Right? It's like if you're doing the body of the guitar and you have like this computer that's just cutting everything out. If it's done by hand and Joe fucking is doing the guitar on a Thursday, but he's hung over from the night before, you might be making some really critical mistakes. That computer doesn't have a fucking hangover, right? So you end up with consistency. And look, I'm just a dumbass talking out his ass. I don't know shit from shit, but it's the way I'm looking at it. If I'm trying to take what smarter people like you two are telling me about like manufacturing and stuff like that, I'm trying to distill this down to the most basic element. So you're saying tone wood is a thing, but the construction is way more important. I could buy the most exotic Brazilian wood that shouldn't be sold to me because, you know, it's an endangered species, but man, it's fucking expensive and it looks good. And if I don't know how to assemble, I don't understand how to piece together that guitar. I might have some great looking wood, but my guitar is going to sound like shit because I don't know what I'm doing. All right? Does it make sense?
I think it's more of Okay. I think it's more of the market is like this. If it's good, it's good. But for the manufacturing side, it's like we have to know the science why it's good. How can we make it, faster and sellable? Then becomes good. So, like you were saying that if you had a Brazilian wood. Remember this guitar you tried in Guitar Summit? This is more band than Brazilian wood. This is Brazilian Pernambuco. And I was really happy that I just swished in the airport and I didn't lose my guitar. but yeah, it's more of for us building stuff and the market side. It's totally two different stories. Market side is as long as it's good, if it's proven good, it's good, we buy. On the manufacturing side, well, just my opinion. Like before it becomes good, what makes it good? If this makes it good, how can we make it with a realistic timeline? Then how can we make it affordable? Not to the dentist and lawyer.
That's true.
So it's more of like the manufacturing side still depends so much on the clients because of course they pay what we can make. But the thing is, before we can make, we need to know how it's to be made. How can it be faster? Like even I have a CNC. I don't have like a CNC like these $20,000 US ones because those are crazy. And I'm not doing aerospace stuff anyway. But a CNC is just a glorified router for me. It's just a way for me to do my woodworking without damaging my hands through the vibration of machine. And that's the only reason why I bought it. Except for one other thing, the frets.
True.
That's the only other thing. Because I used to do fret slots with the table saw with the special blade for fret slots and you make a jig. The problem is if the saw blade just burns a bit, it kind of goes that. And that little wobble that happens is an immediate problem with intonation. Because that's why I only changed to CNC. That was the only reason. But you could make a whole new guitar with a fret saw and it still sounds good.
Very interesting.
Usually.
Yeah.
usually, as we mentioned before, usually towards the end of a recording, we have a special set
And
of questions for each guest, and this is Jonathan's domain. So I'm gonna hand it over to him, and here comes the rapid fire round of questions for you.
Okay. So my first question for you: what are 3 brands? It could be, amp, guitars, whatever. 3 brands that you look up to right now that you think this is a great model and you like some of the stuff they do and you want to base your company on that.
Tom Anderson, number 1. Number 2 would be Nick Hoover's. Number 3 is divided between Avi Shabat and McLeod.
Wow. Okay. That's all high end stuff, man.
Yep.
No, it's because they did something that I would never expect. Like for Avi, he looks like he's just making a scrap. But if you inspect it as a builder, you would know that there's a lot of things that are not supposed to be there, but they work very well.
I've never played one of his guitars. I definitely need to do that. I've played a McMull once, and I was impressed because they like the attention to detail.
Yeah,
super
very
resonant and super loud acoustically. Amazing. Yeah.
All right. So next question for you. Now, I know that you play guitar, so what would be your top 3 guitar pedals?
Oh my Wait, guitar pedals. Marshall Bluesbreaker, the first one. That would be the first one. Then the DM. What was the pink boss one? The DM3, DM2. That one.
Pink boss one.
It was a delay.
You mean the DM2? Yeah, the DM2.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Then the Ibanez phaser that was in a metal casing before. Those were my 3 pedals, and I'd be really happy.
Okay.
Nice.
Perfect. Now, in terms of amplifier, I'm going to give you free reign just to pick one that you think is like really cool. When you test your guitars, you love how it sounds. Is there a particular amp that you go to when you want to test out guitars?
The guitar we have is a Fender Blues Deluxe.
Blues Deluxe. Great choice. Great choice.
Yeah, but if I really had to like really buy one, you know that Tone King thing? That's really nice.
Tone King makes great stuff.
Yeah, really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Now, my last question for you is the desert island question. So, 1 amp, 1 guitar. It can be one of yours. It could be someone else's guitar. And let's say 3 guitar pedals that are not the ones you mentioned earlier. What would you bring?
1 guitar amp.
1 guitar amp, 1 guitar, and 3 pedals, but not the same pedals you talked about previously.
The desert island has food.
It's got everything. Strippers, cocaine. You got the whole thing, dude. It's a party.
There you go.
Well, if it's an island, a Marshall, like a Plexi on all 10s.
Okay.
Then on a guitar, if it's not something I made, it would be a Gilliaron Les Paul.
Okay.
Then on the pedals, Sur
Riot. Oh, that's a good pedal.
Sur Riot.
That's a great drive.
Yeah. Sur Riot. Maybe the Timeline.
Okay.
Good choice.
For a delay, because it has a looper, so you can play with yourself. Then the other pedal will be maybe any chorus pedal.
Okay.
I know where this is going. Like big Marshall, like big loud Marshall, nice delay. Nice chorus. I know where this is going. It's great. I like it.
I'm a simple guy.
Leaves more money for cocaine.
Yeah,
Dude.
100%.
Oh yeah.
Speaking as if I ever did coke, it was like cocaine and strippers. Fuck, so far from what I do. This is like one of those.
But you're just getting into the character.
I needed to make it look like I'm a big tough guy who's done like all this hard shit in his life. Don't even know what color cocaine is. Oh, this was fun, Kenzo, man. Had a blast.
There was really fun, and
right, thank you guys.
for taking the time to talk to us and for the insights. And yeah, I think you have a very unique perspective on things, and obviously because you came into this from a complete different angle. So yeah, I appreciate you hanging with us, and I hope we can do this again at some times.
Yeah. And maybe that would be a different company.
Exactly. It's very possible.
Exactly.
And yeah, for everybody who was watching or listening, thank you for listening in. And we are going to talk to you next week, same time, same place. And until then, bye.